Alright everyone, so in the previous video we set things up in such a way that the ghost there's no longer this kind of global variable, this kind of one variable that says ghost visibility. What we did instead is we changed the ghost so that it had its own personal my visibility variable. And then that way when we copied the ghost and we created the bat would also have its own my visibility variable, and that would be distinct from the ghost's my visibility variable. So sometimes the ghost is visible, but the bat is not. So this is because if we just have one variable, it can't carry enough information for both of these, right? We need one variable for each of them. So we got rid of the old ghost variable and we replaced it with my variable, but now that's led to a problem. So we were using ghost variable, the ghost visibility here, the ghost visibility variable here, to check whether the ghost was visible, because that decided whether or not, when the wizard was touching the ghost, whether or not it should take damage. So remember, the ghost is always on the screen, but you can't always see it. And so we didn't want the ghost to damage the wizard if the wizard bumped into the ghost when it was invisible, when it was supposed to not really be there. We only wanted the wizard to take damage when the ghost was visible. So we had this test in there, but we're no longer using ghost visibility. And so we need to come up with something else. We need to come up with a new plan to figure out when the wizard should take damage. So the first thing we could do is we could kind of get rid of this, and we could replace it back to this. So this says if touching ghost, but now we've got to check that the ghost is visible. But the problem is that we've got to use my visibility instead of ghost visibility. And we've got to use the my visibility that belongs to the ghost. Or if it's touching the bat, then we want to use the my visibility that belongs to the bat. So you see the problem here. So one of the problems that we need to solve first is we want this to be something pretty general. So take damage. Well, if you're touching the ghost or the bat, or anything else. So we defined this variable earlier called current enemy, and this carries the current value of the enemy. So if you're currently facing the ghost, then the value of this is ghost, and if you're currently facing the bat, then the value of this is bat. And we're just going to drop this in here. So now this is going to test, if you're touching the current enemy, be that if it's the bat, so if you're touching the bat, then take all this damage. But I only want to do that if those things are visible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set things up in such a way that I'm going to take this ant and I'm going to get this. If you're touching the current enemy, it's going to broadcast a signal to that enemy. That enemy is then going to ask itself, am I visible? And then if it is, it's going to send a message back. And at that point, the wizard's going to take damage. So here's the basic idea. When the wizard finds that it's touching, let's say it's touching the bat, then it sends a message out. And that message goes to everybody. But the message says, I'm touching the bat. So the ghost doesn't respond to the message. But the bat realizes, that's me. And so the bat responds to the message. And then what it does is it checks whether it's visible. So it asks itself, hey, does my visibility equal visible? And when the answer is yes, it broadcasts a message back that says take damage. And then the wizard takes damage. So that's the way that we're going to do things. What we're going to do is we're going to grab all of this. So this is all the stuff that happens when the wizard takes damage. And I'm going to put a little message that says, when I receive new message, take damage. So what this is doing now is we set it up in such a way that the wizard's only going to do his damage stuff when he receives a signal from the bat or the ghost that he needs to take damage. So bear with me. So over here what I'm going to write is if touching ghost, then broadcast. So what I want to write here is wizard is touching and then whatever he's touching, right? So wizard is touching bat or wizard is touching ghost. But using this interface here, it's not allowing me to just write a space or anything like that. So I'm going to have to write wizard is touching. I mean, that doesn't work. So I'm going to have to write something else. I'm going to have to figure a way around this problem. How do I get it to say wizard is touching bat when I'm touching a bat? And how do I get it to say wizard is touching ghost when I'm touching a ghost? Go to operators. Join. And then I'm going to write wizard is touching. And then a space. Very important. And then in variables, I'm going to grab current enemy. And I'm going to pop that in there. I'm going to use current enemy again. I'm going to replace ghost with current enemy. So what's going to happen now is when you're touching the current enemy, it's going to send a message out saying, hey, I'm touching the current enemy. And then what's going to happen is the ghost or the bat, whichever is the current enemy, is going to receive that. And it's going to send a message back if it's visible, saying, then you got to take damage. And at that point, the wizard's going to receive this, take damage, and then it's going to go through his routine. So lastly, we've got to fix that up in the ghost and the bat. So grab an event. When I receive, it's going to have to be a new message. Wizard is touching ghost. When I receive wizard is touching ghost, if equals, so it's going to check whether he's visible or not. So if my visibility equals visible, then send a message back telling the wizard to take damage. So broadcast take damage. And then I want the almost the exact same code for the bat. So I'm just going to drag this down to the bat. And it will reappear here, but that means it's copied into the bat. There it is. So when I receive, and I need to change this slightly. So it's a new message. When I receive bat, sorry, wizard is touching bat, is touching bat. Then check if my visibility was visible and broadcast take damage. Okay, now hopefully that all works. And the wizard will take damage, so let's give it a try. It's not working. Okay, so one problem is that for some reason the bat sprite hasn't been renamed as bat. And that makes all the difference. Alright, so that seems to be fixed. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for listening, and if you find this video useful, please hit like and subscribe.